You spend about 12 years in school before anybody decides you're educated enough to enter the real world. 12 years. Thousands and thousands of hours sitting behind a desk. And somehow you can graduate knowing the parts of a cell, but not knowing how interest on a credit card works. You know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Fantastic. Now explain an adjustable rate mortgage. Explain a deductible. Explain compound interest. What happens when you sign your name beside a credit card charging 29%? Most 18-year-olds can't. And then we hand them all those things anyway. Here's a student loan, here's a credit card, here's a car loan, here's an apartment lease, here's your first job, here's health insurance. Good luck. Thank God we spent all that time identifying different parts of the cloud. And listen, I'm not saying education is useless. It isn't. Reading matters, writing, math, science, history. Learning how to sit down and understand something difficult matters. But I think we've confused education with schooling. Those are not automatically the same thing. Because if the purpose of school is partly to prepare somebody to function as an adult, then I think we need to ask a very simple question. What should a capable 18-year-old actually know how to do? And once you ask that question, shit starts getting uncomfortable. Because adult life isn't a multiple choice test. Adult life hands you problems nobody prepared you for and says, figure it out. Start with money, because everybody has to deal with it. You don't have to become an entrepreneur. You don't have to become rich. But unless you plan on moving into the woods and bartering squirrel pelts, money is going to affect you almost in every major decision you make. So why doesn't every high school student graduate understanding it? Give a 16-year-old a fake paycheck. Let him say you make $45,000 a year. Sounds good. Now take the taxes out. Okay. Here's what actually hits your checking account. Now find somewhere to live, rent, security deposit, electricity, water, internet, phone, groceries, car insurance, gas, health insurance. Now your tire blows out. Now what? Then hand them a credit card offer, 29% interest. Let them buy a $2,000 television. Now show them what happens when they make minimum payments. That kid will understand debt by Friday. You don't need an entire semester of theory. Make the consequences visible. Teach them what interest is. Teach them the difference between an asset and a liability. Teach them what a 401k is. Teach them what an IRA is. Teach them what investing actually means. Teach them why starting at 20 matters more than trying to catch up at 50. Show them how taxes work. Teach them how to read a basic contract before signing it. Because signing your name is one of the most dangerous things as an adult you can do. And somehow we let people reach adulthood without really understanding that. A 17-year-old can analyze symbolism in a poem, but hand them a 6-page lease and suddenly we need a priest. Seems backwards. Then there's basic competence. And I don't mean everybody needs to become a mechanic, electrician, carpenter, and trauma surgeon. I mean basic adult capability. Can you cook 5 decent meals? I know I couldn't. I remember calling my mom saying, hey, Mom, I'm starving to death. Can you tell me what I need to do? Oh, turn the oven on. Put this, right? Can you change a tire? Can you use common tools? Do you know how to shut the water off in your house? Probably some 45-year-old men that don't know how to do that. Do you know where the breaker panel is? Do you know what turning breakers off does? Can you perform basic first aid? Do you know what to do if somebody's choking? Can you take care of your own body? These are not survivalist fantasies. This is a regular Tuesday. Because every skill you don't possess becomes something you have to pay somebody else to do. And sometimes that's fine. I pay people to do things all the time. This is whether you're outsourcing because your time is more valuable or because you're standing there looking at a screwdriver like it was recovered from an alien spacecraft. There should be a baseline, and physical health should be part of that baseline, not just gym class, actual physical literacy. What is protein? What are calories? What does carbohydrates do? Why does muscle matter? What does cardiovascular fitness do? Why does sleep matter? How do you build a basic workout routine? How do you avoid getting to 45 and discovering that walking up 2 flights of stairs now requires a tactical recovery plan? We give people one body, one. This is not Super Mario Brothers. You don't get 3. No replacement policy, and somehow teaching them how to maintain it is almost optional. We could probably find room for that, wouldn't you think? Especially when we're talking about living hopefully a long life, staying healthy should be pretty important. But here's the biggest thing I think school misses. The real world rewards people who can solve problems when nobody has already written the answer down. School usually works differently. Here's the chapter, here's the material, here's the test. There is a correct answer, find it. That teaches useful skills, but adult life constantly gives you situations where the answer isn't sitting at the back of a textbook. I spent roughly 20 years working in industry. I was a Marine. I've managed people, I built businesses. And when something goes sideways in the real world, nobody walks in and says, okay, Jack, is the correct answer A, B, C, or D? No. Something is broken. People are stressed. Information is incomplete. Money is on the line. Sometimes safety is on the line. People's lives are on the line. Two people are telling you different things. Nobody knows exactly what happened. Make a decision. That's life. And sometimes you only have seconds to make that decision. And that ability to gather incomplete information, control your emotions, identify bullshit, communicate clearly, and make a decision is enormously valuable. It's rare in this world in the modern age. We should deliberately teach that. Give kids problems where there isn't one perfect answer. Make them to defend that position. Then make them defend the opposite position. Teach them how to recognize a weak source. Teach them how statistics can be manipulated. Teach them how advertising manipulates them, how social media manipulates them. Teach them how politicians manipulate them, and how somebody selling them something manipulates them. And most importantly, teach them how to admit they were wrong. That may be the rarest adult skill on earth, because most people don't update their opinion when the new information appears. They just get louder, defending their position. And AI is going to make this even more important. Information itself is becoming cheap. You can ask a machine a question and get an answer in seconds. You can generate an essay, summarize a book, translate a language, solve an equation, write code. So memorized information becomes less valuable by itself. The important skill becomes, do you know what question to ask? Can you determine whether the answer is correct? Can you compare multiple sources? Can you detect bullshit? Can you use information to actually solve something? That's judgment. And judgment is not the same thing as memorization. It's also that you have to have a cell phone or device to make that decision. And if you're in some situations where, you may not have that device and you got to make your own decision. Can't ask the machine. We're entering a world where more information than any humans have ever lived. The scarce resource is going to be people who can make sense of it. Then at 17 or 18, we ask kids one of the most ridiculous questions imaginable. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Brother, the kid spent 20 minutes yesterday deciding what to order from Taco Bell. Now he needs a 40-year career plan. Some kids know exactly what they want to be. Great. Most don't, and that's normal. So why don't we show them what adult careers actually look like? Bring working adults into schools and let them tell the truth. Bring an electrician. What does he make? How did he train? What does his body feel like after 20 years? Bring in a nurse. What are the hours? What does she love? What does she hate? Bring in a lawyer. How much does school cost? How long have you been paying on it? What does the job actually look like? Bring in a business owner. How much money did you lose before you ever made any? Bring in a mechanic, engineer, salesperson, police officer, software developer, military, welder, teacher. Let kids hear good and the bad. Not a recruiting pitch, but reality. Because there is an enormous difference between saying, I think being a lawyer sounds cool, and understanding what a lawyer actually does from Monday to Friday. Maybe let the kids shadow people. Maybe let them work. Maybe let them try different environments before borrowing $100,000 to prepare for a profession that they discovered in a movie on television. That would probably save some people a lot of pain. School trains you to avoid failure. Wrong answer, bad grade, red mark. Try not to screw up, and obviously standards matter. You should know whether somebody learned the material, but real life requires complete different relationship with failure. If you build anything difficult, you're going to mess something up. You'll apply for something and get rejected. You'll make a bad investment, trust the wrong person, take the wrong job, launch something that nobody buys, embarrass yourself, lose. That doesn't mean you're defective. Let me tell you a story. Back early days of Black Scout survival, I created a rucksack called the Recce Rug. I was adamant about getting this product made in America. And I had used all the business profit, the savings the business had made to invest in this pack. And because it was American made, my cost was astronomical. It was actually cost me more than you could really go buy a nice pack off the shelf. So I'd already put myself in a position where I couldn't be competitive with the market. But I thought, hey, my design is great, and which I still think it is to this day. However, by the time that I put on the margin that I need to at least make a little profit on it, which wasn't much, I maybe sold 20. Now, because this is something I had specially manufactured, I had to get a large quantity, right? A minimum order quantity. And it was made here in the United States in Arizona with American-made materials by American labor. So you can imagine, I'm paying Americans that know a skill to do something with American materials that took an American with skill to do something. So it cost me a lot of money. The packs cost me around $245 each, right? So I wound up trying to sell them for $299, which is stupid investment. No, the return on the investment was terrible. But anyway, you live and you learn. So I sold like 20 backpacks. The rest of them sat for 3 years. It almost shut the company down because I had no money to operate. And at that point, I wound up saying, you know what, I'm going to reduce them. After I reduced them to 200, which I was going to lose $45 per pack, still wouldn't sell. I did not start selling the packs until I moved them down to $99. So I took a massive loss, almost went out of business. And I learned from that mistake. That's the way it is. I thought being a patriotic American, having American-made goods, that patriots want to buy it, but it's just not the truth. So you live and you learn, right? Again, so did that mean I was effective? No, that means I did something where failure was possible. The people who eventually become good at things usually aren't the people who magically avoid a failure. They're the people who learn how to take a hit without letting it become their identity. That should be taught. Make a mistake, analyze it, adjust, go again, redirect. Resilience is a skill. There's another problem though. School naturally rewards certain abilities. Can you sit still? Can you read information? Can you retain it? Can you produce the expected answer? Those are real abilities, but they aren't the only forms of intelligence. I've known people who probably weren't great students who were unbelievably capable. A guy looks at a mechanical system and understands what's wrong almost instinctively. Somebody else can walk into a room full of angry people and get them to work together. Somebody can sell, someone can build. There's a leader. Someone can make things with their hands. Someone has incredible spatial awareness. Someone out there is outstanding under pressure. Those things matter. But if you spend 12 years judging a fish by how well it climbs a tree, eventually that fish starts believing it's stupid. Then it leaves school, into the real world, and discovers, oh shit, man, I'm actually really good at something. How many people wasted 10 years thinking they weren't intelligent simply because the system wasn't measuring the thing they were good at? That's a failure. And before somebody turns it into, yeah, school needs to fix my kid. No. Parents are responsible too, probably more responsible. Schools cannot teach your child everything they need to know, and it shouldn't have to be that way. You have 18 years, let your kids see how money works, explain bills, explain taxes, explain debt, cook with them, fix things with them. Let them see you work. Let them see you fail. Tell them about dumb decisions you made. Tell them what you would do differently. Let them make small mistakes while the consequences are cheap. Teach them how to speak to adults. There's a scarcity of that these days. There's nothing more bothersome to me when I see a young teenager and they speak without respect. That is something that just makes my trigger go off. Teach them how to shake somebody's hand. You know how many just dead fish you get handed these days? Teach them how to look somebody in the eyes when they're talking to them. My father was always big on these things here. Teach them how to treat people who can do absolutely nothing for them, because most people only have acquaintances that they can get something from. Teach them how to recognize when somebody's manipulating them. Take them places, expose them to competent people. That is education. Some of the most important education they'll ever get may never happen inside of a classroom. If I were designing education from scratch, I wouldn't begin with what classes have we always taught. I'd begin with what should a capable 18-year-old look like when they're finished. They should be able to write, understand math, know enough history to understand how we got here, understand basic science, think critically, communicate, work with other people, understand money, understand debt, know how to learn something on their own, know how to detect bad information, take care of their body, cook basic food, handle common adult problems, speak in front of people, deal with conflict, understand what they're signing, know what different career paths actually involve, and know how to fail without falling apart. Then build the curriculum backwards from that. Keep Shakespeare, keep chemistry, keep algebra, history, but make room for adulthood. Because eventually that bell rings for the last time and nobody asks to see your hall pass. Nobody tells you there's a test Friday. Nobody gives you extra credit. Nobody tells you which chapter contains the answer. The world just starts handing you problems: money, career, health, relationship, problems with your house, car, and problems with other people. Problems you created yourself. And your education is supposed to help you deal with all of them. So no, I don't think school is useless. I think education is one of the most valuable things a human can receive, which is exactly why we should be willing to ask whether we're doing it well, because 12 years is a hell of a lot of investment. And when somebody walks out of the other side, they should know how to do more than just pass a test. They should know how to live.